I didn't know that I had that name, so but that's very nice. It's a great pleasure being here with you today, and thank you so much, Niven and Iris and Taiwan Mobile for inviting me. Actually, this was supposed to be my third time in Taiwan. The first time it was 12 years ago. I was invited by the Business Council, by Niven. That's when we met. The second time was around 2 years ago. We organized our General Assembly here. And when I arrived to Bangkok, they didn't allow me to fly because my passport was already too old. So I had to stay in Bangkok online, but I was virtually here. And I'm very pleased to be here now to join you and to speak about the circular economy. Uh, I have a written speech today because this is a very complex issue. But I normally use my written speech also to speak freely, and sometimes I'm very disruptive. So I say things that you might not be expecting um, because I'm very critical in relation to the situation that we are living today. So Niven already mentioned that I've been in the sustainability world for almost 30 years. I led a big telecommunications company in the sustainability area, so I know how companies work, and I'm leading a business organization that has an history of 25 years working in sustainability, and the Taiwan Mobile is one of our most recent members. And I must say that I'm impressed with the progress that the company made. Thank you to, of course, to Niven Iris that has been leading the department. But this company has been really what I used to say, walking the talk, making a lot of progress. And I'm very happy to say that in front of you. I say it in other places as well. I mentioned Taiwan Mobile as a good example of best practice that many other companies should follow. But let me go to my presentation today around the circular economy. A few words about GESI. We are an industry initiative. I will put here some of our members. We are a global organization, and we work together to address what I call the intersection between technology and sustainable development. And so we have a long history. As Niven said, we have been leading many, many different areas at the time that people was not talking about them. I give you an example. We developed the first framework for conflict minerals in the world many years ago. We did the very first report about conflict minerals in Congo. And that report was used by the OECD. And it was used now by the European Commission to frame policy. And it was used by the American administration. So we do not do any lobbying, we do advocacy, we do research with our members, and we try to show what are the problems and how can we resolve the problems. What is interesting is that we have done that report maybe 15 years ago or more, and the European Commission in Europe just recently started to adopt the recommendations of that report. And that report was already about circular economy impacts and about climate impacts. It was about destroying the fauna and flora in Congo to exploit minerals. And we have been precursor as well in many, many other areas with our members, but also with our partners. Many business organizations, they only work with the companies. And we do not understand that at Jesse. We need to be open. As companies, we need to speak with our stakeholders. We need to speak with NGOs. We need to speak with universities. We need to speak with other business organizations. Otherwise, we will not be able to understand what are the challenges. So if we only speak between ourselves, it will be a closed conversation. So Jesse is an open forum. So the members, they drive the organization. But we have many different organizations working with us, from universities like the Cambridge University, Columbia, CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project, CROD in Canada, which is another university, the IEEE, which is much, much bigger than Jesse, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, RBA. We have a partnership with the World Oceans Council. No other business organization that has a partnership with the oceans. We have that partnership because the oceans is the next uh, part of the world where companies want to exploit minerals. We are not talking about deep sea mining. Why? Because we do not have enough minerals in the planet, on Earth, to make the devices. So we are now looking to the ocean. So Jess is already in the upfront of that conversation. We have a project with the European Commission of 17 million euros to do an impact assessment of exploitation of minerals in the deep sea. We need to understand what are the impacts, what happens if we start to exploit minerals in the deep sea. So just to finalize on Jesse, this statement is about our vision, and I like it very much because of one single word that is in the middle of it, which is the word responsibly. So we need to foster digital innovation in a responsible manner, not only for the sake of making money, but for the sake of the world and to make the world a better place. So if the world does not exist, we will not exist. Companies will not exist. So we need to be conscious about of that because the world is not only about money. Money is important, growth is important, a stable life is important, but there is no stable life if you do not have a sustainable world. And so we need to make sure that this world will exist in the upcoming years. And I was listening to Jimmy. He found that my hand was very cold, and I found that his hand was very hot, probably because he was coming from the outside. So I was trying to make a balance out of it. But the world is going in the wrong direction. And the 1.5 degree objective is already over. We will not be achieving that objective. And the 2 degree, it's at stake. And above that threshold, we will be seeing much, much higher temperatures as we are seeing today here in Taipei. 32 centigrade at the end of November, this is not normal. So we really need to think that something is happening and that we need to address that challenge. So this is what JEST is all about. We try to take the companies together with us in a responsible manner, try to tell the companies that companies must be the driving force of a sustainable planet, and ICT and the digital technologies are the fundamental technologies to achieve a sustainable world. So I think Jimmy already spoke about the last COP meeting in Egypt, and many people think that Egypt was a success. So I used to say, I say everywhere where I go. I've been at the last 15 COP meetings. All of them were a success from the policy-making perspective. But from the reality perspective, is that all of them have not brought us to the right track. Because in the last 15 years, emissions have been increasing consistently. And every year on year, we are having higher emissions. So that means what policymakers are discussing in those meetings where they spent almost 20 days in long debates, the outcome is not helping us. So we need a totally different shift. We need a totally different conversations, and we need to tell the policymakers that what they are discussing is not enough. And they discuss a lot about the problem, fossil fuels, emissions, but they do not discuss about the solution. We need solutions to address climate change, to combat climate change. And they do not understand that digital technologies are fundamental to combat climate change. In JESSE, we have done 4 big reports since 2007. We did the so-called SMART reports. And those reports were done on the basis of 3 questions. One question is, what is the global footprint of our industry? we needed to understand if we are part of the problem or if we are the problem. The second question is about what is the enabling impact. So what can our technologies do to make the other sectors more efficient? Manufacturing, the power sector, um, mobility, logistics. So all those sectors, how can we as an industry, a digital industry, impact or enable those sectors to be more efficient? And the third question is about what is the business value? Because of course companies want to understand if we are investing on innovation, so what is the outcome of that? And so the reports that we've done so far, we did the first one with McKinsey in 2007, the second one in 2012 with the Boston Consulting Group, the third one in 2015 with the Accenture Strategy, and recently in 2019 we did our Digital with Purpose report with Deloitte. And what these reports show in a consistent manner is that the footprint of our industry is going down in relation to the global warming. I'm not saying that we are not emitting more CO2. We are, because we are deploying more technology, more connectivity. There is more data in our networks, more traffic, more IoT devices, sensors, and so on. So there is an impact from our industry. But the enabling component, so our innovations are impacting in a positive manner all the other industry sectors. And our latest report showed that we can bring down 20% of the global emissions. 20%. And we can generate a business value equivalent to the GDP of China. All the growth of China can be realized through digital technologies, those 20%. And the policymakers, they do not discuss this. They do not understand how digital technologies, actually, if they had the right policies in place, could help to bring down carbon emissions. And so one of our biggest challenges in the upcoming years as Jesse, as our industry, is that we need to bring this conversation into the climate convention. So we make sure that we are helping to make the world more sustainable, because one relevant aspect about circular economy is that the ICT industry is dematerializing many things. So we can put on a single mobile phone many different things that we no longer use. Recorders, cameras, whatever you can think of. So we can dematerialize many things. And the best thing around circular economy is not to produce devices. So if you can have something virtual, that's the best thing you can do. And our technologies can do that, can virtualize more and more. And what we are seeing with developments in artificial intelligence, we are making a huge progress in that regard. So we have a major objective in Jesse when it comes to climate change, to circular economy. We want to bring the solution to the conversation at the policy level, and it's important that every single government, and Richard is no longer here to listen to me, but you can convey in the message. The most important thing is that really governments understand that digital technologies are the fundamental driver to combat climate change. And we need to do two things. We need to walk the talk. That means we need to be more efficient in the things that we are doing. We need to lead by example. And we need to develop those innovations that will create the environment really to combat climate change. So I think I already spoke about many of our challenges that we are facing. Some of them are listed here. But when it comes to circular economy, the main challenge is us, because we do not give up anything. Your president just mentioned, you probably have 3 mobile phones at home. And I tell you, why the hell do you need 3 mobile phones? You need 1. And you can keep it maybe longer instead of exchanging it every year or every 2 years. So we are the ones responsible for the problem. We need to give up something. we need to change the way that we live. Because if we don't, we are carving our own destruction. And I don't want to seem too pessimistic to you, but this is the reality what is happening. We are living in this consumption world. It's about everything. It's not only mobile devices. It's about clothes. It's about cars. Everybody likes a better life. That's good. We need to aim and to aspire for a better life. But a better life needs balance. If we damage the world, if we create more pollution, we will have more health problems. That's not a good life, at least from my perspective. So we need really to stop and think and rethink the way that we are living. And that's the main challenge I see when it comes to circular economy. If we consume more and more and more, we will have more and more challenges to get rid of those things or to recycle. And we are failing. And a sign of failure, which is a recent one from my perspective, we see now in Europe, the French government and the German government are giving subsidies to recall used materials. But that is a sign that we are failing as a society. So the companies are not able to do that, or they don't want to take that responsibility. The governments are doing it, but it's not enough. So all the process is too late, and we are really going in the wrong direction, and we need to really to stop, rethink, step back, and reassess what we need to do in the world. And although digital technologies can help us to have a more circular world, but I used to say, the best approach is that if you don't overconsume or if you don't consume, you are doing the right thing. So keep it to what you need, and that's it. And on mobile phones, I know that our industry is under, big exposure, and everybody likes to talk about the phones that are, thrown out in Ghana, in Africa, in many countries, they are burned, and so on. But think about textile. Ghana is receiving 15 million tons of clothes every week that are not used by people. And clothes are made from oil. So we have all those synthetic clothes and so on. So we need to think that we need really to live in a different way, and that circular economy is not only about reusing, recycling, and so on. It's about also avoiding what you do not need. And therefore, that requires us a totally different mindset, a totally different approach. From a business perspective, we need to develop those innovations that really help us. Taking responsibility is important. What companies are doing in terms of taking back mobile phones is good. But as Jimmy Lin said, we took back, he said 160,000 in a country with more than 20 million people like Taiwan. I'll give you an example. When I was the Chief Sustainability Officer of Deutsche Telekom, we did a research a couple of years back. There were 215 million devices, mobile phones, at the households in Germany. Can you imagine the materials that are needed to do those 250 million? Those materials are lost. You cannot recover them. And so we have now a very difficult situation in the planet. On Earth, minerals are getting scarce. So they are coming to an end. And that's why I mentioned to you, we are now looking to the deep sea mining as a solution. I'm not sure if that's a solution. We already damaged the situation on Earth. Now we're moving to the sea. I hope that will not be damaging the oceans as well. So I think that, it's pretty clear that recycling is not the solution. It can be an instrument. It's something that we need to do. Reusing is important. So we need to do our best really to take back those devices, those things that we are using, and put them back into the market. But the best approach is that really we prolong the life of the things that we do. So if we have a mobile phone, why don't keep it 3, 4, 5 years? And those that produce the mobile phones and the software, they should also be responsible to provide the necessary updates so that people is not obliged to change mobile phone because after a couple of years you can no longer access some information. So we really need to go into a different direction. Although, as this slide shows, we need to undertake these steps because this is our reality. This is the world that we live. We have been producing many, many things that we do not need. We need to take them back. We need to recycle them. We need to put them back into the market, resell them. And this is a good thing, but this is not enough. We need a fundamental change if we want to make our planet more sustainable. And so, making the transition to a circular world requires really a fundamental change of mindset, and digital technologies will be the key driver of that transformation, because the innovations that are taking place in the world, they can dematerialize many things, they can take many things out of the market, they can create a more sustainable world, they can make us becoming, let's say, more responsible if we use them in the right manner. So, from the Jesse reports, the main conclusions that we took is that if we reduce 20% of the global emissions, we are taking out carbon out from the earth. But the other component is that while we reduce global emissions, that reduction is done through the energy that is not consumed. So it has an impact on fossil fuels, and it's dematerializing the overall economy. So what I would recommend moving forward is really that we rethink, we have a different approach, we understand that we as individuals, we need to change our lives, and then that we use the capacities of the technology that we have at our hands really to move the world in a different direction. And we also need to make pressure on policymakers. They need to understand that they need to implement the right policies to help this transition to a circular economy. I hope that this message is pretty clear, but this brings me to another problem, is that in our research, what we have seen is that companies, they like to speak a lot about the good things that they do, which is good. I think companies should talk about it. And, I'm coming from the business side. I'm the CEO of a business organization. But we need to be responsible for what we do and what we say. And in our research, we saw, of course, our companies, the biggest corporations in the world, the Apples, the Googles, the Verizons, the AT&Ts, saying, well, we are really the ones that will be saving the world. But the reality is that sometimes they also say things that they not are 100% right. And so while we look at the challenges that we are facing, we need to understand that we need to have a serious approach also to what we say and to our communication. And in Jesse, we have been promoting the role of digital technologies to combat climate change, to be let's say, to look at technologies as the main driver to respond to circular economy challenges and to supply chain challenges and so on. But we have been portraying also ourselves as sometimes things that we are not really doing. And so in Jesse, what we decided to develop the last 2 years a set of indicators to measure how companies are performing in their sustainability journey. Because we have evidence that digital can be for good. But the question is everybody doing what they are supposed to do? You have companies saying, I'm reducing 30% of my global emissions, but who's controlling that? So if all the emissions that have been communicated in the COP meetings as being reduced would materialize, the world will be saved by now. So every COP meeting, every climate change meeting that you see every year, you see hundreds of companies saying, I'm reducing 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever. But are those communications being really realized? I don't think so. So we need to monitor that. And in Jesse, because we like to be serious and walk the talk, we developed the last 2 years a framework, the Digital with Purpose framework, because the digital needs a purpose. It's not only about, making big money. It's about bringing a value to the society. And we need to monitor that. And we put in place a framework that has 3 components. The first component is purpose. How companies align its strategy and business in a purpose-driven manner. So we have a set of indicators to help companies to achieve a good goal on that area. The second level, or the second layer, is about the solutions, digitally enabled solutions, because companies are talking about solutions that they are promoting, but they are not measuring the impact. So we need to understand the impact. We have now a project with the European Commission called the European Green Digital Coalition. We are developing the methodology and standard to measure the impact of digital technologies for climate change. And we develop these metrics on the digitally enabled solutions in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals around human rights, about biodiversity, about climate change, about education, and about health and well-being. So those solutions that contribute to those areas, they will be rewarded in our framework. And the third layer is about responsible business, is about walking the talk. We want to measure those promises from the companies. So if Taiwan Mobile tells me I'm reducing 20% of my emissions, I want to know how they are doing that. And so we have the indicators to monitor that. And this year, we are awarding the first certificates. And here you have an overview of the framework. In this year, we are awarding the first certificates, and I will tell you where Taiwan Mobile stands at the end of the conversation. But one interesting thing is that in our evaluation, all the companies, they could self-evaluate themselves in the framework. When we verified the replies of the companies, all of them came down almost 50%. So 50% of what the companies were saying, roughly, was not really right. So we had a corrective measure in our framework. And part of our framework is about circular economy. We have indicators about circular economy to measure how companies are performing in their circular economy activities. I only have 1 minute, I might take 2. And what we do is that we award a certification to the companies. So when the companies join Digital with Purpose, they get the committed stamp because they commit to, walking the talk. The CEO needs to sign a document, a pledge. That's the entry. And now we are measuring the company's performance. And although we have not yet announced the results, Taiwan Mobile is number 1, by the way. No, and I'm very proud of that. I'm not saying that they are perfect, because they all were also saying things that they are not really doing. And we corrected that, and we will have a conversation how to progress. And I'm sure that next year, Taiwan Mobile will be on the 3rd level, pioneering, if you continue to work like this. And we are very proud of that. Thank you so much for that work. And so we are using here the circular economy indicators to measure, because you can have the policies, you can have the strategies, you can have the measures, you can have the technologies. But if you don't implement them, if you don't measure what you're doing, you're not achieving anything. So my time is up, but before I finish, I would like to say that we are the turbocharge of sustainable development. we are the technology that will really make a difference. But for that, we need to walk the talk. We need to align what we do with the Sustainable Development Goals, all of them, not only one or two. Sustainable consumption and production, number 12, is very important. Is the one that we are talking about today. And I will give you some examples during the debate that Niven will be moderating. But I would like to end with a note, which is a video that I would like to show to you around the digital repurpose movement, which is a movement which is about accelerating action. It's not about conversation, it's about action. It's about joining the companies together and showing the impact of digital. Because no companies are working in separately. The digital repurpose is gathering all this data, all this information, and then all together we can show the difference in 2030. Because the world is not in good shape, as this video, I hope, can show to you.
Here we are, once again. So many promises have been made and accords signed. The state of our planet continues to worsen at an alarming rate. The consequences of humanity's failure to tackle the climate emergency are steering civilization into collapse. We are failing our planet, society, and future generations. But we have the power to shift course and take action now. This year, the world's leading tech players will gather in Lisbon for the Digital with Purpose Global Summit to showcase and strengthen their commitment to innovate, invest in, and deploy sustainable solutions. Together, we will use digital technologies to accelerate the path towards a better future. This is a global summit for leaders who want to make a lasting positive change by building a prosperous and healthy new world.
So this summit already happened. It was in September. Iris and Niven were there. And the purpose of the summit is really to invite the companies to show the solutions that can contribute for sustainable development, that show action, the innovations. And I hope that next year we'll continue to do this summit, 27, 28, 29 of September in Lisbon. And we want to drive a world whereby the companies are leading, taking action, and showing the potential of digital to make this world more circular, more sustainable, and a better place where we can live. Thank you so much.
The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Iris, and good morning from my side as well, or in your case, good afternoon. I hope soon you can also see the slides I'm showing now, and maybe if you could just confirm that you see those slides. Yes, there we are. Perfect.
Yes, we can see your slides. Please continue.
Great. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about circular economy from the policy, purpose, and value chain perspective. And I will come back to this. And thanks for the introduction also of the CSCP. Maybe just a few words more about the organization. We have been founded in 2005, actually by the United Nations, together with a research organization based in Germany, the Wuppertal Institute, and we are Think and Do Think. And as you said rightly, we work quite a lot on SDG 12. I had also the mandate in previous times to negotiate when we were negotiating the SDGs on SDG 12. And we are having an international scope. So we also have worked quite a bit in Asia and in different countries. For example, we have helped also the Chinese government to create a sustainable consumption strategy, but also the Bhutanese government. You know, there's always, as Louis said already before, lots to be done, not only on the policy side, but also on the business side. And that's why we work also with private clients. We are non-for-profit and we are very much impact-oriented. And you see here a number of different faces from different people with different cultural background. So we always look on how, and this was also mentioned before, and that's how we also translated sustainability. It's not more or less than creating a better life. Because you don't want, of course, to have environmental issues, kind of bringing an impact to your daily life. So whatever you have, droughts or floods, we really would like to avoid this. And that's why we have to be aware, lots needs to be done to protect our environment. And let me look on the presentation I will show to you today. I have split this more or less in 4 parts. And at the end, of course, you're most welcome to ask some questions as well. So the first one, I will go into the question again, why do we do circularity? And I will talk about circularity with a purpose. You heard already Louis talking about digital with a purpose. But of course, you can also ask again, what is the purpose of circularity? And I think you got already explanation from the previous 2 keynotes. Then I would like to look into the policy perspective, enabling and accelerating. And the European Commission, it was also mentioned before, has already put a lot of efforts into the circular transition, more than I would say most governments have done. And then we look into the communication and collaboration part, because circularity is easy said, it's difficult done, because you need to involve the whole value chain. And sometimes you might want to set your own targets in your company, but I think that's also why this forum is so excellent, to bring in the supplier. You need to work together with the supply chain, with the potential customer, and with the consumers to make it all happen. If people don't bring back their mobile phone, then there's already some hole in the chain and you will not be able to create a circular chain. And then I will close with some forward-looking things on creating partnerships for circularity. I think this is very much needed in order, again, to close the whole loop. So let me again start with looking a little bit from the purpose perspective, and let me link circularity again to climate neutrality. But before I go there, let me again stimulate your mind, and let's imagine we are all sitting in a joint train. It's a speedy train going from a place A to B. And let's imagine we are sitting all together there in different on different seats, and we're just sitting in the train and we're looking left and right once in a while. Let's imagine we are starting to look left side. We see at the moment multiple crises. We see Corona, we see the energy crisis, we see wars at different locations. But on the other side, if you look on the right side, then you see also still, and that was mentioned before as well, that energy consumption is increasing globally, but also among different sectors, but also among the ICT sector. But you also see, if you look on the left side again, that e-waste is increasing, the second fastest growing waste sector. That tells us we are totally not circular if this is becoming the fastest growing waste sector. But also we see on the left side, the global footprint is still increasing. Many people are joining on a better life with a high footprint. But then let's look on the right side, already some policy responses like the EU Digital Product Passport, wanting to understand the environmental performance of products. Let's compare it with the corporate reporting. Now it lands on a product level, because much can be said on an aggregated level at corporate level, but somehow it looks like we haven't done enough on product level in order to see all the benefits. But also let's look again on the left side, another policy initiative which is coming up next year, and it will go into a law over time and into regulation, the right to repair. We are coming out of a linear economy. We haven't repaired much in the last 20 years. Even so, my grandparents, I think they were much better in repairing stuff than we are today, because we try to take, make, use, and then dispose it. There's nothing really about circularity among our daily lifestyle patterns. But then let's look on the right side, again, also on positive notes. I think consumers, employees are more and more asking companies to go into sustainability. We have done an evaluation with an organization which is called Great Place to Work. We have interviewed employees, almost 20 million employees globally, on the question, which company do you appreciate? And the answer was those with strong and very strong sustainability targets. So somehow all those left and rights in the train are not only seen by the experts, they are seen by population. They're seen by your workforce in your company, and they are asking, they're creating some motivation, some fears even sometimes, so that people now say, sustainability is not a niche issue anymore. It should be strong in our corporate attitude. And of course, having said this, again, this is the big picture, but where can we start? And of course, we can start in rethinking our daily production and consumption patterns, which are so far the root cause still of climate change and biodiversity, and this current linear economic model. We're not very smart so far. We again, as I said, we take it from the ground, we make something out of it. We use it for a certain time, sometimes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Sometimes we forget about it in the drawer, and then we dispose it because at a certain time it gets just too much. And this is just causing a lot of biodiversity losses because this taking out of the earth also creates an impact. And overall, we see the World Economic Forum and others have said, well, probably there's totally also a resource increase in resource consumption by 300% by 2050. So, all those numbers tell us not very smart. Let's be smarter. Let's look on the design phase of products because they cause actually 80% of the environmental impact. So everything we need to do is to go back to the design phase and ask ourselves, are we smart? Are we creating a smart with purpose product? Or can we do much better? And this is also linked then to the whole climate discussion. Alan MacArthur Foundation has found, if you want to go to net zero targets, you will have to adapt a circular economy because otherwise you will not go there, also not as a company, because half of it is usually the energy system, the energy you're using, the energy grid you are part of. But then almost half of it is the embedded energy in products. So if we don't go there, net zero will not be achieved. So let's look from a circularity perspective that there's a very, very strong linkage also to the net zero target. And this was not only realized by scientists, by foundations, by those who calculating stuff. This was also realized by the European Commission, of course, being advised also by scientists. And, they call already as well for circular transition in the European Green Deal. But they also, and that's why I like the European Green Deal quite a lot, it's interlinked. You usually see policy approaches one basket and there's another basket, and usually it's not interlinked. The European Green Deal is interlinking climate change, circularity, biodiversity, pollution, financing, and many other more things, the whole energy grid, as it was also shown before. So the interlinkage, I think, needs to be seen in business, in policymaker, that you cannot deal with one separate item anymore alone. You need to fulfill and look on the whole basket of issues in a joint manner and see the interlinkages. And if you look on the Circular Economy Action Plan as part of the European Green Deal package, it looks very much on 35 actions. I just have highlighted some here. And the biggest one is to just make the sustainable product idea the norm in the European Commission. So ideally at a certain time, there should not be unsustainable products on the market anymore. With this, of course, you have to empower also consumer and public buyers. You will have to start somewhere, and it was said already, the Commission starts also on electronics and ICT, also on batteries. And it's not just about looking on a company level, but we also need to talk about smart cities, but also circular cities. You need to talk about smart region, but also about circular regions. And of course, it's also about our daily lifestyle. So it's about how can we entail and advance on circularity in our daily lifestyle. So the challenges has been set. The products break too quickly, they cannot be reused, they cannot be repaired, they cannot be recycled sometimes. They are just made for single use, even so we know all this extraction of taking it from the planet, and Lewis hinted on the rare metals as well. That's again is not very smart. So how can we use those resources we take as many times as possible? And this, again, is simple a product design question. It's about modularity, it's about upgradability, it's about the information, what kind of materials are in those products and who else can use this. And of course, it's also linked to better production processes. All this, and you heard me saying design quite often already in my impulse by now, becomes now also part of the legislative part. Because if we know that 80% of the products are, the environmental impact of the products are created in the design phase, I think there's a strong momentum from the policymaker to help on the design phase. And there's a regulation upcoming on which is called the Eco Design Requirements or Directive. And this will empower businesses also to think much smarter about sustainable circular business models. But it also will ask for a right to repair. So me, Michael, in the future, if I buy a product, then, for example, a smartphone, there is a legal right that this is repairable. So there is a very strong different mentality and culture then needed in order to embed all this. And for this to make it transparent and traceable, there is the creation of the digital product passport, which should actually document all those information. As Lewis said also before, you cannot manage what you don't measure. Each product in the future will entail this digital product passport. It will talk about which raw materials has been used, what is the carbon footprint to it, what was the production technology used, and was it done in a responsible manner throughout the supply chain? Is this product recyclable, repairable, reusable? And is there also, if you look in terms of packaging, a certain recycling share entailed in the packaging? So there are kickoffs and prototypes at the moment done this year, and next year the testing phase will happen, and probably in 24 the first product passports will be on the market. And if you look, this has been all the European picture. Already some countries like France are going ahead the curve. They are saying, that's nice to have a digital product passport, but we also would like to have it very visible in each product. So they have started already in 2021 the repairability index. And you see here different scores from 1 to 10. And you find this on French electronic products already on the product, and you can take a purchasing decision yourself. So if it's 1, it's very low, it's in the red area, it's not repairable. If it's a 10, it's not only repairable, it's modular, it's upgradable. And we looked actually on the impact of this kind of repairability index on society, but also on business. And the CCP is actually among the advisory board of the European Commission on circularity. And the advisory board is called the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. And there we have worked with an organization which is actually handling the repairability index in France, which is called HOP. And we have tried to understand, is the repairability index really changing purchasing, consumption patterns? And we found, first of all, even though it's quite new on the market, 21, that the majority of French people know about the index and are kind of aware, half of it already, what entailed, and even less, but nevertheless, almost 30% say it has an influence on the purchasing decision. And we checked this actually with Amazon, because Amazon, of course, easily can track this on their website, and they found the same. Even so, sometimes slightly higher priced products with a higher repairability index were sold more than the ones with a lower repairability index. So there's some potential. But of course, it's just the starting base to change a whole culture, that people suddenly not only look on the price, but they also ask, is this product repairable, upgradable, modular? Can I keep it for longer because of the features? And of course, much needs to be done still of building the skills, of looking, if I'm grown up in a circular economy, in a linear economy, I've not been even trained in my whole education on it, nor at the university level. So we still need to go many steps ahead to build those kind of circular skills. And that's probably true not only for consumers, that's also true for business. That's also true for the whole value chain. We've been operating the last 30, 40, 50 years totally linear, maybe once a while taking recycling into account. But as it has been said, circularity is not just about recycling. It's not a recycling economy. We have this had for many years already. It's really about extending the product lifetime and keeping a low footprint for longer. And of course, there we start again. If we look into circularity, and that's what you heard me saying before, I think we need to look on the purpose. What is our direction we are looking into? What is the purpose perspective? Why do we do circularity? Are we doing this because we want to keep the product for longer? Are we wanting to go into net zero and we realize there is a big impact on circular or through circularity? I think it's always good to align throughout the value chain as well on the purpose perspective. And then, of course, also on the how do we deliver this? Whom do we need internally? Is this the procurement department maybe? Is it the marketing department? How do we bring the innovation guys into the circularity perspective? How do we work with the designer internally, but also externally? And what are the concrete products and services we really would like to offer in the end of the day? And what is our plan to go there? So it's all, and Louis said this also in the end, about measurement and digital with purpose. And we had the pleasure to be part of creating the metrics on circularity. You know, it's about measuring, but also it's about setting targets up front. Imagine you set the target that 100% of the products and services you are offering are circular. How will your business look like? How do you measure this? And imagine you go beyond, you say, you know, it's not just smartphones and ICT needs to go circular, but a city needs to go circular. Textiles needs to go circular. How can you enable this as a business? How can you drive revenue streams in driving a city going circular? And actually we see many cities are now stepping up saying, yes, we want to be circular because they see the same. If they want to be climate neutral as a city, they need to go into the circular dimension. So overall, circularity, as I said before, sometimes it sounds easy, but on the other side, it might be complex, but then it might be innovative as well, because you need to step up along the whole value chain. designers have a very central role in it. We have the first telcos creating not procurement guidelines, but creating design guidelines, saying we would like to have a voice into the upgradability, repairability of the products we are offering. Same for software. Can this be upgradable in terms of design as well? And how is the interaction between hard and software as well? Then, of course, you need the manufacturers. You have telcos playing a central role, maybe also offering then instant repair service, trade-in options of old devices. Even so, we heard before, it's very difficult to get the stuff back. And I will come back to this. But then, of course, you need also the whole logistical chain. So DHL and many others are looking very actively what's their role in the circular economy. And Amazon wants to be the circular economy company #1. They set a new target also on it. And they will go very actively in getting back stuff because they realize now it becomes a value. And we have another retailer saying in the future, it's the biggest retailer on electronic products in Europe. They say by 2030, 30% of our shelf space should be on secondary products. Imagine, I have never heard this before from a retailer saying 30% of the physical shelf space should be on secondary products. So you see the mentalities are starting to change. They're also going to offer repair shops. They are going to offer repair experts in order to close the loop. But we discussed already before that closing the loop sometimes is very difficult. You see this guy here in the middle. He makes a picture of himself, a selfie, but he might be so attached to his mobile phone that he doesn't want to give back the mobile phone. And there we are. We actually found, yes, this is very difficult often, that people give back their mobile phone. Many telcos have tried with campaigns to get it back, but many failed. So we have started to run some experiments together with the European Commission, going a different way because we are still stuck in getting not back those stuff we want to have back, and with this we cannot close the loop. So we thought, what if we go to companies, not only telcos, but just a generic company, manufacturing company, for example, and we take back stuff not externally, but within the company, in the organization. And we set up a kind of network of an NGO collecting the phones. Here we worked with the Norwegian Telecom, and actually we worked with an insurance company, and there we tried to get back the phones, the business phones, but also the private phones. And actually it worked much, much better than trying to get them back on the free market. Why so? Because we told a story. First of all, you had to register to bring back your phone. And we did this because we wanted to give you access to the story, what happens to your phone. So we gave those who brought back the phones, and we addressed 1,000 people in the company, and actually 380 almost brought back their phone. 200 of those phones were quite good in shape. They really had still a reuse potential. Others were just made for recycling. And again, why did people bring back their phones? We sent messages through the employee to their desk, to their email system. We told them what will happen to the phone, what is the data handling. We created a kind of website where they really could see where the devices will go after. And all those storytelling, this engagement, motivated people to create trust. And here you see how important the digital and analog choice architecture might be. Because you're so attached to your phone, you want to know more about your phone. There was no money involved, interestingly. So we didn't pay for it, or people didn't ask for it, but it was just a storytelling narrative story here. But also, of course, that the employer was trusted because he told the story that they will make sure that nothing bad, so to say, will happen with the data on their smartphones. So, and that calls that circularity is not just a matter within the value chain, it's even broader, it's beyond the value chain. So you might need to work with NGOs getting back phones because they are maybe a more trusted partner and they will tell the story on where the data and the phone is going. You might want to work on with third-party organization that certify that this product is repairable. You might want to engage with the digital product passport to showcase what is the information in terms of sustainability and which measures did you already take on sustainability towards, for example, the smartphone. But you also might want to work with organization in the educational area because we still need a strong reskilling and upskilling on circularity among all those different stakeholders I just mentioned. We have actually done an interview with different DGs of the European Commission, different departments, and we found even in research, even in the educational program of the European Commission, circularity is just embedded now as we speak. So probably it still takes a little bit of time to upskill ourselves. And the last one brings me to the last picture as well. We are just actually now with the European Commission setting up a circular academy because we found, well, it depends on what you're looking for. If you want to go for recycling, reuse, repair, refurbishment, there are very different behaviors within the value chain, within the consumer interaction you need to look into. So we still need to build skills among those different areas as well. And this is not only true for electronics, we also need to build this for many other value chains. But there again, digital can be a strong enabler. So imagine you enable circularity among textiles. Imagine you enable circularity among food. And again, I think all this is needed to get to climate neutral society over time. And here I stop and thank you very much.